Indubitably.
Well, this episode of the Ross and Leah Show has officially started. The clock is going, and we've got 15 minutes running down quick. So I guess I want to explain to you a little bit of the reason that I wanted to have you on for this topic. I feel like this was an underlying theme, one of many underlying themes, but one of the heavier underlying themes in your full episode of the podcast is no matter what you did, no matter what got in your way, no matter what was offered to you, anything like that, you were always unapologetically who you wanted to be.
Sure.
Even when it felt like it was maybe being compromised at some points in time, you still stood your ground and pushed through of like, nope, this is me, this is my opinion, this is who I want to be, and I'm going to own up to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my big question, since this is more of a topic based and where it's with the goal of giving people advice, what would you say to anybody who is unsure on how to own who they are?
I think it's difficult almost to explain just because I've always been me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was never hard for me. Besides maybe middle school, I think we all struggled in middle school, because we were like, oh God, everyone is mean and everybody hates me. And that carries on to our adult lives. And I think that we did another episode about anxiety, depression. It leads into a lot of that kind of thing. But something that I think I've always kind of followed in my own heart from the time I was in like 7th grade, wearing neckties with like tank tops, trying to be Avril Lavigne, whatever. I think unapologetically, I've always just been like, you know what? I kind of like this and I'm just going to do it. And if other people don't like it, then I really don't care. Because realistically, like if somebody just goes, oh, she's wearing this. Okay. It doesn't make me a bad person.
Right.
Okay. Oh, she did this with her hair, or she said maybe even something I said. Oh, she feels this way about something. Realistically, if I am true to that value or to that thing that I said or to that thing I'm wearing or to what I'm doing, I'm not going to, no matter what people say about it, I'm not really going to falter in that. If it's that important to me and if it's who I truly am, I'm just going to be like, yeah, I did say that. Yeah, I did wear that because that's how I feel and that's what I wear.
Well, I feel like honesty or authenticity a lot of the times is pushed to the side because I think a lot of people just want to hear what they want to hear.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a huge problem in the world because I think if everybody's trying to fit into the same molds and trying to just please everybody all the time, you're never going to have those hard conversations that make a difference. And I think that, when we'll call it debate. If you even debate with somebody, maybe not argue necessarily, but debating with somebody, you're never even going to have the opportunity to change your way of thinking if you're not challenging yourself by saying what you believe, even if it's different than what somebody else believes. Like maybe having that conversation and initiating that conversation, even though it's difficult, it's going to help either you grow, them grow, maybe both, because you're expanding your worldviews or your views on whatever that subject may be by listening to what somebody else is saying or doing or feeling. And I think that that's just how the world has to be because we're all very different people. We all come from different places, backgrounds, things like that. And I think that we're all going to clash in some way, shape, or form. There's no two people probably that that have the exact same views on every little thing. But it doesn't mean you can't be friends or you can't get along as human beings.
I think at some point for so many people, there's always this like blockade that just kind of grows in their mind that is just like, yep, not an open mind. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with anything that educates them or entertains them or anything like that. And I remember like from personal experience with this whole like being authentic to who you really are, like I struggled with that a lot growing up where I was like, I feel like right in the middle. I was sort of just neutral on everything.
Me
where
too.
I would conform to what a lot of people like thought was cool or something like that. Where like, and I guess that's kind of hard to say because I would still, I was that like weird, like dressed like a skater kid in like 8th grade that was like, I was wearing like strange, tight pants and like a him or CKY shirt, and they're like in like purple, literally
Burr-dur-dur,
yes, and like weird like purple Bam Margera shoes, and people are like, "We're in 8th grade, you cannot wear purple." Like, you know what I mean? And like, so even though I did those things and I was still being myself, I would still be like, "Oh my God, what does everybody think of me?
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't do this." Well, when I'm getting into this friends group, I need to think all the things that they think are cool, and I need to. So like, I would subtly conform to a lot of things, but at the same time, the older I got, and this just happens with maturing, I get it, but in those kind of like quote unquote formative years, I would say, when you really make decisions of like, all right, am I going to kind of like be like everybody else, or am I
Yeah.
going to kind of be my own person? Which you can make that decision at any point in your life. I'm not saying it's just a high school thing,
Right, right.
but for me, as much as I was conforming and trying to fit in with whatever new friends group I entered, I was still at my core not breaking who I wanted to authentically be.
Mhm.
The easiest example that I can give is like partying or drinking.
Mhm.
I've never drank. I don't like to. I mean, like, I've sipped things and like tasted it,
Right.
but it was also just to be like, oh yeah, I don't like that. Yeah, no, I'm good. And I think I use that as an example because it's such an easy like peer pressure
Of
example,
course.
right? So even though I was like, oh well, all my friends want me to go to this party, and if I don't, they're probably gonna like make fun of me, and I'm gonna be the idiot.
Mhm.
I'll go to the party. But then at the party, if someone is like, hey, you should drink, you should do this, I was always just like, no, I actually don't care that much. You know what I mean? Like, not gonna work on me. I don't care. The like, so as much as I conformed, peer pressure never actually worked on me.
Of course. I mean, it's especially, in those like middle school, high school years, there's a lot of that. And I think I was also the kind of person where I didn't do any partying. When I hit 21 was really when I started drinking and being in a band, from the age of like 18, 19 up at, those first couple of years, it was like there was constant pressure to be drinking and to be doing all these things that like realistically were not like legal or whatever. I know a lot of people drink in high school and college, and it's just like part of that age. And I just never really had that, I don't know, I never had like the curiosity. I think there were, like you said, I would taste stuff and I'd be like, yeah, you know what? I don't really want to be a part of that. When I turned 21, I went out for my 21st birthday and I got drunk and did, the 21st birthday thing. And then I was like, all right, I did that. That's good. And I've,
Right,
I've
right.
had nights, where it was maybe something that I was like, all right, you know what? This is one of those nights. It's a holiday. It's a something. It's a family reunion. I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
just drink my brains out because it's going to be fun. I am very much the person where like there are nights for sure where I'm like, you know what? I don't want to take any part of that. And I think growing up, I was this person that I had multiple people I remember hit me up that were like, hey, where can I buy some weed? And I was like, I've never smoked before in my entire life. And it was because maybe the people I hung out with smoked, and they just assumed that because I hung out with these people, I was doing these things.
Right.
But I just was, when I was around those people, I was like, no, you know what? I'm good. And you know what? When there's a bowl going around and somebody goes, "No, I'm good." People are like, "Great, more for me." And when you're young, you're like, "Wow, they probably think differently or badly of me because I'm not partaking in this stuff." When realistically, people are just like, oh, "Okay, whatever."
They're like, great, dude.
Exactly.
I
More
bought
for
this,
me.
so yeah. So I think I even bring up those examples because those are very specific examples.
Of course,
but
yeah.
I think for some reason, even though I wasn't noticing it,
Mm-hmm.
I was always quote unquote staying true to who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And especially and I definitely want you to take the lead on this, but like especially when I started pursuing careers and passions,
Yeah.
because for the longest time, and I still battle with this, but for the longest time, I really cared about other people's opinions of what I was doing. And again, even though I'd still do whatever I wanted to do,
Yeah.
the quote unquote repercussions of that, of, oh, somebody's thinks it's stupid or somebody said I'm dumb for doing that, that would still sting a lot, and I'd really let it get to me, but I'd still do the things that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Even to the point of like, being that, the friend who's like always wants to have a positive conversation, always would rather be the cheesy guy who talks to you about your dreams and goals rather than watch a YouTube video for the 90th time in a row. There was always kind of that like inner battle, but I would still always kind of stick to my guns of just like, yeah, no, the more that I do this, the more I go through this, like I'm just going to own who I am.
Yeah.
This is who I am. I want to pursue these things. I want to do these things. I'm going to be that person who encourages you to do those things or is completely honest, because I feel like those two things are things that are not, this might be a stretch to say, but I feel like those aren't normalized enough. It's like
No,
being
I think
authentic and honest.
I think that there are too many people, and especially like being so involved in the music industry and being very close to obviously watching people coming in and out of our studio and recording. There are a lot of people that come in and they go, I want to sound like this band. And there are a lot of people that come in and they not only want to sound like that band, but you look at the way that they're dressed and you look at the way that they act and you're like, you want to be these people.
Yeah.
And I think that, I mean, just to put it frankly, those people already exist. That band already exists. And I look at things like I'm the person, I walk into like a clothing store, for example, and I'm like, who would buy that? And then I go, well, I'm going to buy that because
Yeah.
I look at stuff and I think, you know what? Somebody's going to do this. And it's going to be me if it's not somebody else. Because realistically, there are too many people that are, that, like, I'm tired of, like, going somewhere and I'm like, I know exactly where you got that shirt because this person was wearing it and they told me where they got that shirt. And, I think there's so much that goes into, like, you know, even just like when people go, oh my God, I love that. Where did you get that? There's this feeling of like, I want to have the essence that you have when you're wearing it. Now we could both, I don't want to say you and I both would wear the same shirt necessarily, but
Hey,
like
we
we could
might.
go, we could,
We both got stripes on right now.
we do. Um, we could both theoretically go out and buy the same thing, but it's going to look totally different on us. And it's going to all depend on the confidence we're exuding and the way that we're wearing it and what we're putting with those things, like that makes all the difference in the world. So maybe, yeah, like you get inspiration from something and you want to have the same kind of like sound as this band, or you want to have the same kind of look fashion wise as this person, but realistically, like, you have to find a way to make it your own, or else people are going to look at you and just go, oh, he's trying real hard to be that person,
Right.
or they're trying real hard to sound like that. And do you want to be, oh, we're this group that sounds like this other group,
Hmm.
or do you want to be, wow, they did something really different and maybe it's kind of weird, but like it's their own. Even if it's not your cup of tea, I'd rather it be me versus somebody look at something I'm doing and go, "Oh, that's just another person trying to do this."
So what do you think it is that kind of stops people from just owning who they are?
I think people are afraid to be judged. I was having a conversation with Nick yesterday about when he was in, I think, 7th grade, and it was very similar to what you were saying earlier. He's like, I went and I bought these skate shoes, and they were like baby blue. And I thought, these are so cool, and I love these so much, but everybody at school is going to make fun of me because I'm an 8th grade boy or whatever.
Hmm.
And then at school, nobody said anything because he just wore them. He just went about his day. And he's like, I had multiple people come up to me that were like, you know what? I really like those shoes. And Nick has had in the last couple years become this person that was wearing a t-shirt and jeans every day. And I'd go, you should, we'd be at the mall. I'd go, you should get this maroon colored thing. He'd go, no, I wore this same maroon shirt for like a year. It's in every photo you find on Facebook. I'm wearing this same shirt. Like, I can't wear that color. And I've become, over the last, like, I don't know, 6 months, like his shopping guide guru person that's like, do you like this? And he's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, then who cares if nobody else likes it? And I think there are a lot of people that are very like when was the last time you looked at somebody and you were like, why are they wearing that, or why are they acting that way? Like,
Right.
there are things that are eccentric and there are things that maybe we look at and we're like, okay, I disagree with that. But you look at that person and you're like, okay, but that's who you are.
Hmm.
Even if I'm not like about it or whatever, I can respect that you're about it. And I
Yeah.
think that there's an unspoken thing where people are afraid to cross that boundary because they're afraid that there are going to be people that are out there going, I wouldn't have done this or I wouldn't have said that. But realistically, like, again, it all comes back to your core values. Like, do you value, for your example, like, do you value the part of you that can have fun without drinking? then who cares if anybody's out there going, oh, he's not drinking at this party.
Right.
He's not fitting in with us. Like, then realistically, those aren't the people I want to be around anyway.
Now, how have you, or how would you tell somebody else to carry that into like their business or their career or their job, or, because that's where it really, because then you have a literal totem pole in a lot of cases that
Yeah.
kind of say you have to listen to this person or do this thing in this way. Even if you're not working for somebody else, let's just say you're a freelance creative or whatever, you're always, you are kind of still working
Yeah.
for somebody else. Like, how do you, then stay authentic even still? Because I know a lot of people who've pursued creative passions and just sort of immediately, quote unquote, sold out for the money. And they just only do things from just a sales mentality, and there really isn't any authenticity left in it.
I fell into that mold when I was signed to a label and I was just worried about what's going to sell, what's going to make money, what are people going to want to listen to. And I wasn't having fun doing that. And it didn't take me very long to figure it out because I ultimately was like, you know what? I would rather be doing this and making no money than and having fun and enjoying and like creating authentically than to be spewing out the same stuff that everybody else is and hoping that it goes somewhere because authenticity has won over recreation in every way. If you look at all of the greats, no matter what art form or workforce, even if you're looking at like politicians, the great people that we recognize, they stood out and they had different opinions, and that's why they became great. And if you're trying to fit the molds of the people around you just to gain, the I don't know, the favor of the people around you, I mean, you're not going to make a difference. And I think that going into your job or your passions or, all of the different things that you want to pursue, I think when you go into those things, regardless of even if it's your boss and they're like, you know what? I don't think you should create this way, then you should be working for somebody else. You should be working for yourself. You should be doing things. And I said in one of our previous podcasts, do things with intention, also do things with authenticity. Don't go into something and just be like, oh, well, so and so did this way. We should do this way.
Right.
Think about how you want to do it and how you would react to something if you were the one watching that YouTube video or listening to that podcast.
Yes. So as we start to wrap up, I want you to pretend like I am somebody else, right?
All right.
Not Josh, because you killed him and took his spot on the podcast, right?
Shh.
Um, pretend I'm somebody and I just came to you and I said, Leah, like, I've been listening to these self-help podcasts or whatever it is you want to call them, and I've been hearing a lot of people's opinions, but I just need to hear it directly. I need to like find inspiration in some way of, I keep trying to kind of be myself, but I'm just surrounded by people who just want me to be whatever they want me to be, whether it's family, it's friends, or, and I get looked down on for trying to follow my passion, and they think it's silly. And honestly, I don't know how to balance that. I don't know how to find it within myself, to find myself, to navigate those things. So let's just say somebody just threw you a direct problem and they're like, what advice would you give me in finding out who I truly am and being authentic to me?
What I would say is at the end of the day, the person you're living with is yourself. And if you can look at all of the choices that you made that day and say, yeah, I'm happy with who I was today, what I completed today, what I created today, and not caring really about what other people are going to look at. Because ultimately, like I said, at the end of the day, you're the one living with yourself. And maybe somebody else might not be happy with what you're doing, and maybe somebody might disagree with what you're doing, but you have to look at things and think about how you as a person are going to feel in relation to your core values. It all goes back to those core values. If you value being a good person, were you a good person today? Would you be proud of yourself for who you were today? If you're a creative person and you're looking at it from a creative aspect, am I proud of what I created today? Regardless of if you think anybody else is going to be proud of what you create. I look at things a lot of the time and I go, people might not listen to this. People might not like this. People might not see this the same way that I do. But that's the beauty of the world. We all see things very differently. And we all look at things from different perspectives. And I think, it's okay for people not to like what you're doing. And I think it's okay to accept that not everybody is going to like what you're doing, but they have to accept that it's you and what you're doing is authentic. And you have to be true to yourself in your beliefs and in your values and in your honesties, what is the most important to you. And I think that going into, anything, literally anything, you just have to remember, like, this is me. This isn't about anybody else. Because when your life is over, if you're just the same exact person that everybody around you was, then are you going to be happy with that person at the end of the day?
Right.
Can you live with yourself?
And I think it for me, and we'll kind of wrap up on this before we go even further, and I take this down this rabbit hole of something else. But like, I think for me, one of the coolest things that I've heard about just owning who you are and just putting that right foot forward of just like going and chasing after what it is you want to be. Doesn't matter if it's a career. It doesn't matter if it's just your personality, whatever it is. Owning who you are and finding the authenticity in that. One of my favorite things that I've heard is be the hero of your own story.
Absolutely.
So the idea is absolutely. There it is. I'm going to get you a shirt for this podcast. Yes. It's absolutely on it. But the idea is, if your life started today and it was a movie, and it doesn't matter anything in the past, it doesn't matter what anybody else has said you are, it doesn't matter what anyone else, what version of yourself you think exists now due to your past or anybody else around you. Mm-hmm. Negate all of that. And if your life was a movie and it started today and you were the hero, choose to be the hero, and what would that character do? Mm-hmm. What would the hero of your story decide to do? So then choose, go and do that.
Yeah.
Go and decide, because, and it's really cheesy, but it's based off of the idea of like, well, you look at the hero of any movie and they're just like going about, you know what I mean? They're just going and getting it, and they're being who they want to be.
And I think that's all. And it sounds so simple when you word it that way, just be who you want to be. But really, I mean, that's what it is. And in the same breath of like, if your life started today, also like if you died today, if we all are going to die someday, that's life. That's the only thing that's guaranteed besides taxes. You're going to die someday. It could be in a car. I could literally walk out this door and get hit by a car on the way to my car. Am I going to be proud of who I was as a person? Am I going to feel like I was myself and I was who I was happy with, not who other people were happy with?
Yes.
Was I the hero of my own story?
Right.
Was I the protagonist, or was I another person in the crowd?
Mm-hmm. And yes, and that's, are you the extra in the background, or are you the hero? Are you, champion yourself?
Absolutely.
That I feel like, listen,
is...
we're hitting so many of the cool one-liners. So you know what? When you start just listing off one-liners one after another, you've reached the end of the episode.
Yeah, because we're like, just be yourself,
just
love yourself,
and be happy.
Be happy.
And chase it. No, but I'm not trying to downplay everything we just talked about. Absolutely. We definitely I think at this point for sure we've passed the 15 minutes, but we're gonna start talking in circles, and because the point is, no matter how many different ways you can say it, I just want people to understand, and we want people to understand, given we just did a whole podcast episode about it and talked in circles about it, is that it doesn't matter what's in your way. It doesn't matter the boundaries. It doesn't matter the box that you find yourself in right now. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or does, because what is right now doesn't mean that will be tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And you can choose to change that and choose to change who you are to fit who you truly want to be at any time. Mm-hmm. And it sounds cheesy and it sounds cliche, and this is just another podcast using the Nike slogan and saying, just do it. But I think those things are cliche because they are true.
Yeah.
So I think that does it for another 15-Minute Friday. Leah, I thank you so very much for doing these episodes with me.
Indubitably, my friend. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I love sharing my opinion.
We like to talk.
To the and that's our next podcast. So look out for it on the internet. We like to talk. Was that the name? Was it
We
something
fucking
different?
love talking.
We fucking love talking. The Ross and Leah Power Hours. Multiple.
It will, yeah.
There will be an S. So yeah, if you want your podcast fill, if you didn't get it from this, you can go find that on the internet. I bet it'll exist by the time this episode releases. But if you don't want to listen to that, make sure you keep up to date with this podcast by following it at WYDH Pod. Or if you do want to hear me talk some more or talk directly to me, if that's even possible for you to want to do after hearing my voice so much on these episodes, you can find me and follow me and chat with me anytime at Who's Ross Tyson. And if you just can't get enough of Leah, where can they find you around the internet?
They can't. No, I'm just kidding.
And that's that. So if you want to find Leah, listen to more of these episodes. She'll be back.
Oh, no, I'm on the internet as much as anybody, I guess, is on the internet.
You know, you got to be.
I have a lot of different ats. You can find me Leah Earth on Instagram with no spaces. My creative outlets are Leah at Play, Pleij. That is my work. That's for hair related things, I suppose. YTF Not on YouTube and Leah Ingram on Facebook.
And then I'll figure out whatever our new podcast at is, and then I'll toss it in at the end so then they can find you.
Click and subscribe.
Click the link to subscribe to the other podcast below. No, Leah, thank you so much for freaking talking to me so much.
I enjoy talking with you so much.
Indubitably, or whatever that other word is.
Indubitably.
What is it? Undoubtedly?
Absolutely.
That's it.